and he had a huge collection and was very partial to Joy Division. And to this day, when I hear a Joy Division song, I still think of Scott. It's also around this time that we started venturing up to Hollywood. We would go to nightclubs like the Odyssey and Seven Seas, and we'd go see bands play at places like the Starwood and the Whiskey. And there was even a time when Scott was never content with just going to clubs. He always had to meet and befriend the owners, which he always did. He always wanted to know how they did it, how they achieved success. And this carried over into other interactions with a multitude of business owners. He always wanted to know the inner workings. He wanted to have the behind-the-scenes view. And I remember when Beverly and Mike got married, Scott really looked up to Mike. He used to call me on Saturday mornings to go over to Holman Industries and check out the machine shop. He was so proud of the business that they worked on together, PowerPost. I also remember when Sophia was born. Scott was so proud to be an uncle. Again, he would call me on Saturday mornings to go see the baby. And I can't talk about Scott without mentioning our many trips together. We went to Palm Springs countless times and many, many ski trips to the local mountains and to Mammoth. And when the Powells bought their second home in Blue Jay near Lake Arrowhead, we would spend weekends in the trees. Scott always had a connection to nature, and back then we would sit outside, whether in Blue Jay or on the Indian Reservation in Palm Canyon, and he would say, "Guido, close your eyes and listen to the silence." I always knew that Scott felt at peace in nature, listening to the silence. He had a deep-rooted love of nature and a concern for the environment, which would later culminate into his primary focus. We would also spend hours looking at the stars, first with the naked eye, then with binoculars, and ultimately with telescopes. Scott had a fascination with the Pleiades, not only because it is one of the brightest star clusters, but because of the significance in both ancient and modern cultures. Scott was always very interested in ancient cultures. We had endless conversations about ancient beliefs, ancient religions, mythology, and mysticism. Scott loved the work of Jalal al-Din Rumi, a 13th century Sufi mystic and poet. And I would like to read a poem by Rumi that I found while thinking of Scott. And it goes, "Look at love, how it tangles with the one fallen in love. Look at spirit, how it fuses with earth, giving it new life. Why are you so busy with this or that, or good or bad? Pay attention to how things blend. Why talk about all the known and the unknown? See how the unknown merges into the known. Why think separately of this life and the next when one is born from the last? Look at your heart and tongue. One feels but deaf and dumb. The other speaks in words and signs. Look at water and fire, earth and wind, enemies and friends, all at once. The wolf and the lamb, the lion and the deer, far away, yet together. Look at the unity of this spring and winter, manifested in the equinox. You two must mingle, my friends, since the earth and sky are mingled just for you and me. Look, and you will see my form, whether you're looking at yourself or toward that noise and confusion. Don't be blurry-eyed. See me clearly. See my beauty without the old eyes of delusion."
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Joe Gunning, John Gunning's brother. And of course, for Scott, I'm using technology today. We all knew he was a technology buff. Hopefully it works. I just had it on the seat and Pac-Man came up. I don't know if Scott was screwing around with me or what, but trust me, I'm not going to play Pac-Man. So John Gunning, my brother, lives in Japan. He's not able to be with us today, so he wrote something for me to say. So bear with me. I hope I do justice. I'm his younger brother. Scott always knew me as John Gunning's younger brother. I would correct him. John Gunning, I'm the better looking brother of John Gunning. So I can say that now because Scott loved when I used to prod my brother. He always loved it when I made fun of him. So this is from my brother. First, perhaps a quick introduction to this reading. For most, you know me, John Gunning, the reader's brother and a good mate of Scott's. Unfortunately, due to living abroad for many years, I am unable to attend, but grateful that I am able to find some closure by providing some insights and sharing my feelings regarding Scott and his passing. Friendship is composed of intentional actions, invitations to parties, hanging out in kitchens, debating the better gins and whiskeys, sharing a smoke outside on a balcony, visiting mates in faraway places, all of which I have been privy to with Scott. Many of you here today have experienced the same pleasures I have been so fortunate to have had with Scott. I'm sure your memories are just as full, vibrant, and exciting as mine. However, these intentional actions are also experienced by the agent, that agent being Scott. Scott was that agent, a man of intelligence, humor, wit, charm, passion, and lastly, action. Scott worked strenuously to remove suffering wherever he found it, whether in himself or others by simply caring, lending an ear, or badgering you with words of encouragement, support, and confidence. He was always proud of another's success. To a degree and a very large one, I cannot ever live up to those same values. Perhaps if I had, I would have been a better friend or more caring one with open ears and eyes. For this, I'll have to live with until we, Scott and I, meet again. In the Western culture, the two most commonly held views regarding death are that there is either absolute termination of consciousness or that is succeeded by some eternal state of bliss or suffering. I'm not sure Scott would have agreed with the above views based on his philosophy of life. In general, a sense I gathered from years of late-night conversations with Scott, and I mean late night. Based on all the positive actions Scott undertook while with us, and from a rather Eastern philosophical view, God, he really goes all over the place, doesn't he? Trust me, Scott, I gave him a hard time when I read this back to him over the phone. So I'm sure his rebirth into another multi-layered universe finds him well, as no world is permanent, therefore there is no eternal damnation or salvation. So Scott, my friend, I'm sure you are well. Our friendship lives on in memories, of which we all shared together, his friends, his family, and colleagues. Go well, my friend, John Gunning. So I'm going to take a few minutes, and I came rather late into Scott's life, probably in the last 12, 13 years. As my brother went to Japan, I kind of took over for my brother. And I always told Scott I'm a better version than my brother John. I don't know if he always agreed with that, but at least I convinced myself, and I guess that's all that really matters. One thing that I got to know that I didn't know was the Powell family in the last couple weeks. When I was younger, John, my brother's a year older, and hung out with all the Johns and the Scotts. And unfortunately, my mom, who's here, wouldn't allow me to do that, even though I was only 1 year younger. And so I never got the opportunity to meet the Powell family. And I can see where Scott got all his strong character and traits. Clearly, you made a great impression on him, and I'll always be grateful for that. You know, we all grieve and reflect and celebrate Scott's life in different ways. I'm kind of a quote guy, and there's a couple quotes that I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to bookend them on a story that reminds me of who Scott was. The author of a great book, which you all should read, All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten, once said, and I quote, "I believe that imagination is stronger than knowledge, myth is more potent than history, dreams are more powerful than facts, hope always triumphs over experience, laughter is the cure for grief, and love is stronger than death." I mean, think about the last two, right? Laughter is the cure for grief, and love is stronger than death. Those really make me reflect about Scott. And I'm going to hopefully tie a little story into both of those. For those of you that know me, and if you don't, hopefully I get to know you. I'm a bit of a type of person who likes to play a lot of pranks and have a lot of fun. And Scott and I would ping pong back all the time. Maybe two messages a week, and for friends that are here, I still do that. And one really spoke about who he was, and I want to share that with you. So I called Scott one day, and he picks up the phone,